Hi, I'm Kevin Falvey, editor-in-chief of Boating Magazine, here for Next Marine. And with me is Jan Becker. Jan, good afternoon.
Hi, Kevin. Thank you. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Jan, tell us about your company.
I founded Apex.AI about 6 years ago to provide robust, reliable software, so specifically middleware software, to the mobility industry.
Can you explain a little bit about that? What is middleware? For my benefit and perhaps for the benefit of some of our audience members.
Of course. So middleware is a software that sits in between the hardware, so the hardware being the vehicle or a computer in the vehicle, and the application itself. So the easiest way to explain it is actually using here my phone. You have a phone, and then you have a ton of applications. So thousands of applications that then provide any kind of functionality, from sending an email to making a phone call to writing a text message, or to record it in order to record a podcast like this. Middleware is the base software, the foundation that sits in between the phone and the application to enable this, to also provide a consistent, in the phone case, a consistent experience. So when you open a virtual keyboard on a phone, it always looks the same. There are not 100 different keyboards depending on which app you use. So middleware provides all the functionality that any kind of application needs. So now translating that to the mobility space, in a car you would have cruise control or adaptive cruise control or lane keeping. We now brought that to the marine space, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. So all these different applications require that foundation.
So now your middleware that Apex.AI has developed and produces is helping boaters to deal with a situation that has been a perennial cause of concern for many, many boaters. Anyway, the ability to dock a boat consistently, regardless of the weather conditions, the water conditions, and what have you. And I said in our preliminary questioning, I've been at this business for many, many decades, and it's always one of the top questions, one of the top points of interest. They're always asking for us to produce more content about how can I dock my boat with greater ease. And you're involved. Tell us a little bit about your involvement with Brunswick and in making docking autonomous or moving towards autonomy.
So Brunswick is, as you know, the manufacturer. They make many different. They have many different brands launching many different boats, and they actually had the idea for that functionality for the autonomous docking, and they had prototyped it using a system called ROS, the Robot Operating System, which is an open source framework, actually an open source middleware. Now, I was involved in building that open source system about 15 years ago. So the foundation of ROS started.
How many years ago?
About 15. So 15. Around 2009, 2010.
Thank you.
And the core idea, the business idea for Apex.AI was actually to take ROS, which I have used over the years in many, many different projects, prototyping applications, and take it and make it, put it into a professional, real-time, reliable, safety certified, so for safety certified applications, safety certified version, which we then professionally support and license and work with the mobility industry. So Brunswick had used that open source version before, and they had come to the realization that in order to put it into a boat, which shouldn't crash, should actually be much better than the human captain, that they need a professional supported, real-time, reliable version. And we provided exactly and do provide exactly that transition from ROS into what we call Apex Grace and Apex OS. So into that real-time, reliable, supported professional environment. So that was then a win-win. And since then, we've been working together.
Well, I had an opportunity to be aboard, I believe, a boat with your middleware at Lake X 2 years ago, Boston Whaler. Was that your software? Was that Apex.AI middleware in that boat?
Hard to say, because we started to work with Brunswick about 2 years ago.
Okay.
Since then, we've built together the software, which was now launched at boat or announced at boat shows
Okay.
earlier this year. To my knowledge, the system will become available to end customers in 2025, so next year.
And were there any particular challenges in developing this for a boat versus a land vehicle? I mean, was there anything you as a software developer had to really apply yourself and leverage your expertise and so forth and make it work in a boat?
So conceptually, our software is designed, and that's actually the beauty of coming from open source, was designed that it works for many, many different applications. So from cars to trucks, to drones, to robots, and now, which is great, also to boats. Of course, every manufacturer, and Brunswick is no different there, they have their specific sensors, specific cameras, a specific configuration, where we then made adaptations so that it runs with the Brunswick system. But there was no fundamental challenge or hurdle, because fortunately we come from a basis, ROS and open source, that has been already tested in so many different applications and across so many different mobility verticals that there is no fundamental hurdle or challenge to overcome.
I see. I was thinking along the lines of, a car or truck on a road. A road is a pretty consistent surface, whether it's a road in New York or Colorado or Germany or wherever the road is. A road is a road, most. But the water changes every day. Could change minute to minute. And is that something that you had to account for instance?
Mm-hmm. No, that is actually something that Brunswick accounts for on the application side, where you're exactly right. A road is typically flat or has a curvature or goes up or down, whereas on the water you have waves, you have, depending on the wind, you have drifts, so you have currents, so all these hard to observe environment changes, but that is solved with the sensors on the application side. We obviously help Brunswick with that, but that is core Brunswick work.
Jan, do you think there's any other areas in rec? Let me ask this before I ask the next. Are you a boater yourself, by any chance?
I don't own a boat, but I've been on boats. I've rented motorboats, and I have a friend in Europe who has a sailboat, and we go sailing occasionally. So I've been on boats. I've actually also had a couple of years ago renting a boat on Lake Tahoe here in California. In hindsight, not surprising experience that the rental company asked me not to return the boat to the dock, but they would meet me a couple of 100 feet outside in order to then drive the boat back themselves. Now I understand why. And now hopefully in a year, it's solved.
So with that experience of boating and also with now access interfacing with the people at Brunswick, have any ideas cropped up for other areas of boat operation where AI might be beneficial?
Of course. I think autonomous docking is just the first step. And before I answer your question concretely, the beauty of the middleware we provide and the way Brunswick has laid out the system is we can then update functionality over time. We actually call that a software-defined vehicle. So coming back to the phone analogy, 20 years ago I had a Nokia phone. The phone stayed over the lifetime of the phone exactly in the same state in which I bought it. Whereas now I have an iPhone, you may have an Android phone. You can download, after you've bought the phone, you can download new apps and add functionality to the phone. The same is now happening in the mobility space and hopefully also in the boating space, where new functionality, new applications can be provided over the air, so over the internet, onto the device, onto the vehicle. So for boating specifically, that could be collision avoidance. We have that in the road vehicle space already for years, where the system makes it impossible or at least harder to hit something. Currently that is implemented in such that the boat doesn't hit the dock, but parks itself where it's supposed to dock.
I saw that in the demonstration. I mean, I was on the boat. They threw an inflatable dinghy between the boat and the dock as the system was docking the boat, and the system stopped the boat until the obstruction was removed. It was really remarkable to see.
And in the future, we can hopefully also see that on the water, not hitting another boat on the water. An obvious extension would be to detect and avoid marine animals. So larger, let's say, whales or anything larger underwater.
That's actually a point of contention right now in the U.S. I don't know if you're aware of that, but there's a lot of legislation pending regarding the speed of vessels and right whales because of their being endangered and so forth. And it's creating quite a conversation, let's call it, at the moment.
I was not aware, but it makes absolute sense, and it is definitely solvable in the future. It's just a matter of finding the right sensors, rolling them out, and writing the software for it.
Jan, this is all very interesting. These accomplishments and innovations that Apex.AI is bringing to the boating space. Is there anything else that you'd like to discuss about your company? Is there a topic we haven't broached as it might bear upon recreational boating that you'd like to speak to?
I think we've covered it from a functional side. What I would like to add is that it doesn't stop in recreational boating. Obviously, we can bring that to the commercial marine space. We are today working with a number of car companies. There's potential in trucking, making trucking autonomous, drones, flying vehicles. So the space is large, and having that having that generic, applicable, extensible middleware, which we are now bringing to the boating space with Brunswick, actually enables what you called uplading, adding functionality later on. I would call it software-defined vehicles. And bringing those.
Sorry, would you repeat that, please? What is it called? What would you call it?
Software-defined vehicles.
Thank
you. The transition from a vehicle stays in the state in which it was delivered. So, really being defined by the hardware. Now moving to, we can extend functionality over time by adding software to it. This is really exciting, and bringing that to the marine and to the boating space, that is actually awesome.
That's wonderful stuff, Jan. Thank you. And I want to thank you for explaining what Apex.AI is bringing to recreational boaters in their partnership with Brunswick. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin, for having me.
Until next time, for Next Marine and Boating Magazine, I'm Kevin Falvey.